Visual artists are lucky that when they die, you've left a wake behind you, a visual reminder of your existence here. A lot of people can't say that. Most jobs, you're not lucky enough to leave paintings on the walls of that cave forever, but artists kind of get that, and I do love that feeling. I was born in Ada. I went to Wewoka Public Schools until 4th grade, and my parents moved me to Seminole, about 15 miles away, where I graduated from. My mom was an elementary school music teacher. My dad ran a truck stop on I-40. We grew up out in the country on 3 or 4 miles off of the paved road, and I had a good life. I have a good family. I was lucky. I don't remember anything that spurred me to becoming an artist because it was just like the way we were raised. Now, painting, the visual arts were never really a part of our life, but it's something that I don't remember starting it. I always did it. I really do remember what I was obsessed with as a kid and drew all the time, and it was backgrounds for Roadrunner and Coyote cartoons and the California Raisins. But I grew up like a lot of people my age watching cartoons, and that animative style, for whatever reason, it fired something up in me where I wanted to recreate it. I'd never considered painting as a career that I wanted to try. When I was in Eufaula running their newspaper, my sister asked me for a painting for Christmas. And so I went to the store and bought the canvas and the brushes and stuff and made it. And I enjoyed it enough that I did another one. Started giving away portraits of musicians I knew people liked or whatever, just dabbling. And I just kept doing it. I moved back to Oklahoma City after a few years in Eufaula, trying to play music, and was a substitute teacher at my mother's elementary school. I wore a jacket and tie to school every day. And I can remember I would be so excited to jump back into painting that I wouldn't change clothes when I got home. And so eventually all my jackets and ties had paint on them. And I started to notice that, like, wow, this is really all I'm thinking about now. It just went from there until I got my first show in 2011. I was a full-time elementary school teacher by that time, and I quit my job that May. That was the last job I ever had. It was 3 months after my first art show. A friend of mine who was a painter up here in the city taught me how to put something on a grid, and I knew nothing of technique. I'd never been formally schooled in any kind of art. When I started putting things on a grid and when I started aiming for precision and worrying about technique or my style, and that really revolutionized the way I looked at something that I could make. And if you do that long enough, it gets more or less detailed depending on what you decide to do with it, but it becomes a style that's yours. It's inevitable. And so that became mine, and the Western pop art stuff, the pop art was built into it because of the color block style, I think. But the Western stuff is sort of a recent development, and I wonder why it took me so long to get to it, because I was always obsessed with the outdoors. I always go west when I go anywhere. It was just a natural blending of what I'm into. I mostly paint acrylics on canvas and wood. I've made a few oil paintings. I paint custom sneakers, which is a recent development. I've started doing that. The other big thing I do is murals. I love, which is essentially the exact same thing as painting a canvas in here. The canvas is just the size of a building. The skill set is almost entirely identical to me, but I'm a painter at heart. Well, folks, welcome back to a brand new episode of Tumbleweeds All the Way Down. Here in the city, local legend named Ferris O'Brien, and he has owned The Spy 91.7 for I don't know how long. And it's a real anomaly at this point, a locally owned independent radio station that plays what it wants. It's a remarkable thing, I think, in this country. Years ago, 8 years ago now, there was a show on Sunday nights. A woman named Samantha Lamb had a country music show called Songs from the Plains. And I was still a musician at that time, and I had gone by to play at an all-night fundraising radio-thon at the Spy. I heard that night that Samantha Lamb was moving and that her time slot was gonna be open. I thought about it for 5 seconds, and I was like, I bet I could do that. That sounds fun. And I kind of started needling Ferris about it. Why don't you give me a radio show? I bet I'd do good at that. So he literally took me into the studio and showed me what buttons to push. So I came up with a playlist and wrote out a few loose notes and came in with my little piece of paper and did the hour show with him and Ryan LaCroix at the KOSU studios. And that was my first radio show 2 weeks later. And I've had it since then. It was 2015. That part of the country has always been a bit of an ashtray or a refuse bin for a lot of people that want to live free in the way they want to live, if they want to be eccentric, or if they want to be off the grid, or if they want to be an artist. They don't move to Georgia, they always go west. I've noticed over the years that you can be a weirdo out there and live in the country, and your fellow people don't look at you like a weirdo. That's just part of living out there. The more authentic you are, the more it seems to fit out there. My name's Jack Fowler, and this is My West.